Everyone's experience of motherhood is different. There are women who get pregnant straight away. There are women who sail through their pregnancy. There are women whose babies behave according to the textbooks. The truth is, motherhood is a mix of highs and lows. The trick is to just be in the moment, because this too will pass. Intrigued? Then sit back, relax and listen to find out. On this episode, I'm joined by Amy Goodall, who found herself thinking that she might have missed the boat, only to be blessed with a beautiful daughter. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. My guest today is Amy Goodall. Thanks for joining me today, Amy.
Pleasure, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. So Amy, who is Amy Goodall?
Oh, that's a big question. So my job title is Brand Alchemist, which is one that I gave myself because I didn't feel that branding strategist or branding expert was particularly engaging. I thought it sounded a bit standard. So I wanted to come up with a name that brought a little bit more sparkle, a little bit more of me into it. So Branding Alchemist, because a lot of the people I work with say, oh my God, you're like a magician. You've just taken this kind of jumbled up overwhelm of thoughts in my head and you've turned it into magic, and I love it. So that's my what I do. I am a branding strategist and a visual identity designer. So I love it. It's my passion. I almost design in my sleep. I can't switch it off. I design in my spare time. It really is a passion of mine. But I'm also a mother, which is my other passion. And I have an amazing little girl. She is 9 years old. And I have a husband who's a tennis commentator, which often kind of is a bit like, oh, that's a bit different. And we live in Bristol, and I was lucky enough to meet you at a networking group. And yeah, I remember when I first met you, I felt like instant, oh yeah, you're my kind of person. You just had that amazing energy, and that's a big thing for me, like sparking off people's energy. So yeah, that's kind of me. I dance. I love dancing. I perform twice a year in a show, and I'm quite into my fitness. So that's kind of a broad brushstroke. Who is me?
There are lots of facets to Amy. That's amazing.
There's a bit going on.
So did you always know that you wanted to be a mum?
No, I would say absolutely not. When I was younger, it almost felt like oh, when I'm a mum, and I just had in the back of my head, I want to have one daughter. If I am going to be a mother, that's what I want. But then I had a really long and quite formative relationship when I went to university with someone who I didn't know it at the time, but we just weren't good for each other. And at the end of that, honestly, I felt quite lost. And I did various other bits and bobs in my life, which kind of put me back together a bit. But then I just, for a long time, hadn't met anyone else. So I honestly could say I got to a point when I was probably about 35 where I thought, that's it then. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to be a mum. And I actually was cool with that. I would have been fine. I kind of thought, well, say I don't meet someone until I'm 50, which is what's going to happen this year. I'm going to be 50. Then fine, I've got from now until then to live my life as I want to. And then I can be really happy with somebody, because by then I'm pretty sure I will meet the right person, even if it's later down the line than that. And yeah, I had nieces and a nephew. Well, I had one niece at the time. Actually, it was the first time I held her that was like, no, I do need it. I want it. I held her and was like, I want one of you. But yeah, it wasn't a kind of, you know how some women have that burning desire, and I never would have gone down the route of having a baby on my own or anything like that. It absolutely had to be with the right person.
So obviously the logical question now is, so what happened? How did it all change?
It was quite a romantic story of fate, to be honest. So after I did a design degree, and when I finished, I was what, 21, super young in so many different ways, just naive and not brave enough to go out as a designer. But I was obsessed with tennis, obsessed. And I wanted to work in events because every year at my local tennis club, which is where I spent my entire childhood, we had this challenger event, professional men's tennis event, came to town, and I worked as I was ball girl first, then I worked as a receptionist, then I worked behind the bar, and I kept going to the tournament office, and I was like, oh, can I just, what are you doing? And this seems so cool. And anyway, fast forward a bit to uni when I was studying design, still in the back of my head, all I wanted to think about was tennis. And I just wanted to travel to other tournaments. And I just wrote to the LTA again and again and again and again. And to cut that bit of the story quite short, I just wrote to them until they were like, oh God, all right, come on then. Just come and do. So I did a month's worth of work experience. And then at the end, they were like, okay, yeah, you can stay and we'll pay you. That was in Bath, because it was the regional Southwest office. Then eventually, because I still just kept battering down the door, and my boss, when I eventually got a job at Queen's Club, which is where the main LTA was, when I started, he got out this pile of letters and he was like, this is how badly you wanted to work here. I hope you're happy. And I really, really was. I loved it. And I was there for 10 years. It was like a family. It was a safety net. I just felt like all my friends were there. It was a lifestyle. We all socialized together. I got to watch the most incredible tennis on my lunch hour because, you know, the Queen's Club had the Stella Artois Championships once a year. And it just felt like, it literally felt like a family, and I loved it. And then 10 years into that, we had a big restructure, and I fought to keep my job. I really fought hard. I sought legal advice because it all got a bit weird, and really someone new had come in and they were just trying to kind of restructure it to make it work. And that was fine. But I fought for my job and I won the appeal because they said you don't have a job anymore. And the day I won the appeal, I'd also done a Rally International expedition test weekend where it's a whole other big story, but it was a weekend where they kind of challenged you to your utmost limits, physically, mentally, and emotionally, to see if you could go and do an expedition in some far-flung land. And as I won the appeal on my job, and I also got an acceptance letter for Borneo, which I couldn't believe because I thought they're just going to look at me and go, basket case, no way. But they kind of saw something in me that I didn't see at the time. And I remember having these two letters and I just thought, I don't know what to do. So I went out and was pacing around the car park, and I rang one friend who I really respected his opinion, but he wasn't close enough to me to kind of like a parent or someone too close to me. I said, what shall I do? And he just went, you have to do what is in your heart. And I just like took this massive deep breath. It's weird. Like sometimes when I talk about it, it still makes me emotional now. I walked into my boss's office and he was like, no, no. And I went, I'm leaving. And I then went and did Rally. And I now can't remember what your original question was, but going to do Rally, working with youngsters in such a kind of challenging role gave me what I needed to understand that I could be a parent, because I learned so much about what I was capable of, patience that I didn't realize I had, um, being comfortable to be very uncomfortable and just putting up with it. And that, I would say, changed my entire life path. It's given me the skills to understand that I can run my own business. It's just phenomenal. But what was quite weird was I then ended up back in an agency position a few years after Rally, and my role was account director. My main client was Moët Chandon, and they sponsored all these tennis events. So I found myself at the O2, Barclays ATP World Tour Championships, massive event of the year, building this VIP suite, and this man who I used to kind of know and work with at the LTA walked into my life, and it was instant. I was like, there he is. So it was quite a long route, but every single bit in my life was absolutely necessary to get me to be where I am today.
So this is a bit of a woo question. You said when you held your niece for the first time, that's when you were like, no, I do want this. Do you
Yeah.
think the universe was conspiring to ensure that you met the right man and that you ended up having that daughter that you wanted?
Yes. I think that once you have that want, because at the time that was a want, but that was followed really quickly with a huge amount of, but what if I'm crap? What if I can't do it? No, I don't think I'll be able to. You're not strong enough to be a parent. Are you joking? Kids are hard. But once you have that want, I do believe that you then start to make choices that lead you, that draw the things that you really want on a really kind of soul, like deep in your soul level, that draw them to you. I totally believe in manifesting. I believe in the power of the universe. And yeah, I do think that played a part. And the other bit of the fate was, in my job, I was really interested in the design bit of the work. And we were coming up with all these different creative ways to execute the brand in a physical space. And we had these tennis balls that we had branded up Moet and Chandon, and we had 50 of them, and they were in a box. I was protecting them like they were my baby because we didn't have many. People were trying to steal them. Everyone wanted one. And one of them, and I will never know how, found itself outside my husband's office. And I didn't realize he was there. So I turned up. I had this box of tennis balls. I don't know whether a client took one out, whatever. He found it it was outside his office on the floor. He picked it up. He took a picture of it and sent it to me on Facebook. And he said, based on everything you've been sharing recently, I think you're something to do with this. Are you here? And I said, yeah. And we'd never spoken face to face. I used to email him the results of the junior tournaments I worked in, and he used to put them on the website. And he said, well, let's say hi, come and say hello. And this is the kind of like name dropping bit. He said, I'm interviewing Boris Becker this afternoon. Come down and meet me on the practice courts, because he was like the voice of Barclays Ball Kids, and Boris Becker was like heavily involved with that. So I went down and I somehow managed to get through security, and they were like, oh, well, I was just standing there going, someone's going to like usher you out in a minute. I felt really suddenly nervous. And then he came over to me. And the first thing I said to him, we said hi, and he was like laughing. He was a lot taller than me. So I was looking up, and the first thing I said to him was, so that's what you look like when your face moves. And he was like, yeah. And that was sort of great opening line. Oh, this isn't going to go well. But it obviously did go really well. But yeah, that tennis ball, I don't know how it got there, but that was the universe at work.
Yes, the universe was conspiring
100%.
for you.
Yeah. And thank the universe it did.
So how did you find the mothering journey, from going through pregnancy and those early years of having a baby?
So I was 39 when I had Ellie, my daughter, and they call you a geriatric if you're over 35, which I found quite offensive, to be honest, but had to get over that. I really struggled with pregnancy. I didn't like the loss of control over my body, and I felt so sick. I was never actually sick, and it wasn't hyperemesis, but I felt like it was a combination of the worst hangover and being on a boat, that combined like awful feeling, which I couldn't get rid of. So I think then as well, I kind of thought it will just be one. There were several reasons why. Age, pregnancy was awful. And then when I had her, she was an absolute joy. She was the most beautiful, amazing baby, and she did sleep really well. I had to kind of keep that on the down low amongst the NCT group, because they were all like, I haven't slept in 4 days, and I was like, oh no, my baby's just done an 8-hour shift. The thing that was super hard and was very, very surprising that was hard was breastfeeding. So I mean, I may as well just be totally honest. I had inverted nipples, so they didn't like do their job very well. And she didn't enjoy it either. She liked it when my husband fed her from a bottle and she was kind of upright and she could see the world. So I did 3 months of solo expressing, but then I got to the point where we weren't leaving the house very much, because it was just a continual cycle of express, feed, change, nap, go again. So we had a kind of conversation. My husband was amazing, because he just sort of said, look, we need to do what's going to really work for all of us, and don't beat yourself up about it. Just let's bring in some formula. So we did a mix of both. And then I was a lot happier, actually, because I wasn't in pain anymore, and we were able to get out and do some stuff that wasn't just in our lounge. And then what then hit me was when she was about 3, 4, 5, and that period of time, I felt like I was experiencing postnatal depression, but kind of delayed. I just thought, I hate this. I hate everything about it. It's not joyful. She hates me. She was really, really strong-willed, like raging if she couldn't communicate or didn't like what was happening. I mean, we had sort of half an hour screaming tantrums outside the car, trying to get her 2 minutes up the road, but she wouldn't have her seatbelt on. And I was just like, we didn't set, it wasn't this hard in the beginning. We got through the year 2 fine as well. And then this wall of kind of like, what the hell is going wrong? Everyone else seems to be having loads of fun with their kids. And my husband works away a lot. So I was on my own at home with her a lot. So yeah, it was not easy at all.
It's funny, isn't it? Because parenting is hard. There is no book. Every child is different. So even if somebody said, oh, well, when this happened with my child, I did this and that worked, you can't even take that advice and just map it across. So parenting is difficult. The one thing, or one of the things that I find comfort in, is the fact that, like, when I'm having these discussions and the wonderful women are sharing their mothering stories and they're saying to me, oh, well, my child did this. And I'm like, oh, yes, I remember my child did that too.
Yeah.
That we might not be in the same boat, but we are definitely in the same storm. And like, I remember Leah. I mean, Leah has had moments of, it's like the child is completely not the child that I had 5 minutes ago. It is like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. And
how old is she?
She's now 11, so she's in year 6. So, similar.
Yes. Yeah, very similar age.
And that's just very comforting, hearing that actually the way our children behave, there are lots of similarities, and we're not the only ones. And all right, there will be some extreme cases.
Yeah.
It's just comforting knowing that it's not just happening to me.
100%. Yeah, we're not, no one has a perfect child. There's absolutely no such thing. And when you're in that pain, you do feel, I remember standing in the middle of a park and just looking at everyone else having fun, and these mums kind of just sitting around and chatting whilst their kids ran off and played, and mine was literally glued to me. And I just thought, mine's broken. And everyone else is sort of just handling it, and I just was crying, and my friend came and rescued me. And it's really hard to reassure someone when they're in that pain that it's just the phase, but it really, really, really is. And it might feel like a long phase, and it might be a long phase, but like, now we just went to Paris on our own together. My husband was working out there. She is the best travel companion. She's brilliant. She doesn't whinge, no moaning. She just amuses herself. And as an only child, sometimes I have a bit of guilt that there isn't a kind of playmate. She's asked me time and time again for a sister. She's downgraded it to a dog now, so I'm like batting that one off at the moment. So I've agreed to borrow my doggy, and that's the first step. That's the like gateway drug to getting our own dog. But yeah, everyone just goes through it, don't they?
They do. And I think it's really easy as a mum, especially, to take on that mum guilt because we're trying so hard to raise wonderful human beings who are most of the time happy. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves a break. We don't just sort of show ourselves a bit of self-compassion and go, do you know what? You're doing your best.
Yeah.
And that's all anybody can ask.
Yeah. And often it's running a business, is keeping the child alive, then keeping them entertained and engaged and not off their screens and giving them, other options of things to do. And then it's running your business, which, a lot of mums, I feel, do end up doing that because the employment no longer works for anybody. So you're then, you've got to try and serve your clients, market yourself, do the selling, go to the networking events, stay hydrated, keep fit, make sure you look all right, don't look like you've been pulled through a hedge backwards. There's so much to do, so much, and it's exhausting. And yet we are still our own worst critics. Go
We
figure.
are.
I don't
We
get
are. So based on that, if you could go back in time, what piece of advice would you give yourself sort of pre getting pregnant, but like at the point of, you're about to get pregnant?
Ooh. Probably, I mean, I think what would have been really comforting to hear would be oh, you are more than capable of this. And a lot of the stuff that you think you're worried about just doesn't need worrying about. And don't read any bloody books because nothing good comes of that. And also, and this is something I actually was quite good at, I think, I didn't listen to a lot of advice because I understood from a really early point that every kid and every situation is completely and utterly unique. So what works for somebody doesn't work for anyone else. And actually, that's why I set up my Instagram account, and it used to be called I Should Be, because I was so sick of people saying to me, you should be doing that, or you should be thinking about that, or why don't you try this, or why don't, and I was like, la 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 la, I shouldn't be listening to anything other than the kind of the gut feeling I have in my soul, and I should be trusting my own decisions and having the courage of my convictions to do my own thing. So when I started out the Instagram account, I used to do posts like, I should be putting the fish fingers in the oven, but I'm actually Googling how much is a flight to Ibiza, stuff like that, because I really was having a bit of an identity crisis as well. And I wanted to retain my inner sparkle and my joy and my identity, because a lot of people were like, you're a mum now, so it's time to wear elasticated slacks and be fine with being like having vomit in your hair and not looking great. And I was like, why? What if I still want to look nice? What if I still want to go to Ibiza? I'll take my baby. We took her, she had about 13 flights, I think, in her first year. Because everyone said to me, oh, you can't travel with a baby. I was like, you just bloody watch me. We will need a lot of suitcases, but I'm going to do it.
Oh, I love that. I think that's amazing because you are right. That, do you know what though? I feel like it's self-imposed. You shouldn't.
Yeah, a lot of it's self-imposed, and then
Yeah,
some of it is people telling you stuff. But you're right. We like, oh, probably shouldn't be doing this. Why not?
because we're worried about what Mildred round the corner thinks.
Yeah,
That's why.
Judgy McJudge pants.
Oh my goodness. So mothering, the thing that I think we can learn from past generations, because they didn't, like you said, they didn't have all these books and all these experts and so on. And maybe that's what we should learn from them. Ignore, not go, oh, my baby's doing this, quick, we need to Google it, there must be a
Yeah.
book on it. Exactly the words you use. What does your gut instinct tell you to do?
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think, if you do trust your gut instinct, I mean, I think it's quite a thing, isn't it? A lot of mums, if they go to a doctor and they with their baby and something doesn't feel right and they get battered away, they'll keep going and keep going because they know their child, and you know when something's up. So I think our intuition and our mother's intuition is really, really super strong. But something else other than, and I feel that the messaging to me growing up was um to always listen to our elders and do kind of follow their advice. I have a different take on that because I feel we have a lot to learn from our children. And I do learn a lot from my daughter, and I'm really interested in her opinion and her perspective. I ask her for her opinions on some of my work. I ask her when we go anywhere, I will kind of consult with her and make sure, because she might have a different thinking about it. And she's often going, oh, Mum, why don't we just do this? I'm like, I never thought of that. So I didn't like the children should be seen and not heard kind of vibe. And I didn't like, you should do what I say just because I'm older than you. I don't think age sometimes comes into it. I want to learn from, our kids are learning the cutting edge stuff in all aspects. So I want to listen to her.
I think the good thing that children teach us is the fact that they haven't accumulated the baggage that we have. And
Yeah.
so to them, potentially there are no such things as limitations and restrictions. They have the freedom to really think outside the box because they're not in a box.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's where some of the treasures can be found. Whereas when we're thinking about things, unconsciously, we have like built this box around ourselves and we can't see outside it. So I think there's value in everybody. Each generation will have a different perspective, and like you said, it's not about right or wrong, it's just about different. And embracing those differences and asking about, well, how do you see this, and having that different perspective and opinion can only enrich things and make things better.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So we've covered a lot. So we need to like summarize this. So the lovely people who are listening and watching to this podcast, what 3 things do you want them to take away from our conversation?
So, okay. I think the first thing would be to really, that what we were talking about, that real trust in your kind of in what you want, and to so yeah, if there's something that kind of you really want and it's kind of deep within you, just don't give up, because if you try hard enough and are persistent enough and you're passionate enough about it, you can make it happen, regardless of how big and mad that seems. So having graduated from a design degree to go and work in international tennis feels like a bit of a leap. And obviously there were small leaps in between, but I was so determined. So just that kind of, if you want to do it, probably read up a little bit about manifesting, and that will help you, because and write it down and think about it and just kind of think, how can I what else can I do to help me get one step closer to achieving that thing? So that's the first thing. The second thing would be, you are an absolutely incredible parent. Full stop. Nice, short, succinct one. And the third thing would be, trust your instincts. You know when, like, just try and drown out the noise a little bit, because and just kind of have faith in your own soul, because you will do what's right, and you are capable of a lot more than you probably think.
And I think those are 3 lovely takeaways from this conversation.
Thank you.
Before we end the podcast, though, our viewers and listeners be thinking, Amy, she's amazing. I need to be in her world. Make it easy for them, Amy. How can they connect with you?
So they can find me on Instagram. That's probably where I hang out the most. And my handle is Mad About the Brand. So Mad About the Brand. I'm generally talking about all things branding, but for me, your brand identity is very much linked with your own identity, and it's very much about increasing your confidence, not just about giving you pretty things to put on all your content. So Mad About the Brand on Instagram, and my website, where you can see some of more of my work, is madaboutthebrand.co.uk. So those are the 2 quickest and easiest ways to look at my stuff and get in touch. And I'd love to hear from any of you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And thank you, everyone.
Pleasure. It was
and
fantastic.
thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What the Mum. If you enjoyed it, I've just got a little favour to ask you. Go ahead and tell all your mum friends so that more mums can share their stories of motherhood. And also, don't forget to subscribe and come and connect with me. Take care, everyone, and see you at the next episode.